It's, I mean, that's his deal, but it's also your deal. How exciting is it to know you've got that much capital to rebuild this thing?
Yeah, it's different than where we've been. Let's start there. It's different than where we've been. There's been some necessary evils, necessary steps that we've had to take in order to, in some ways, reset the deck here, and those are hard. But to get us to where we are heading into this offseason, as opposed to continuing to kick that thing down the road, we're back into a position of more of a healthy situation, cap-wise, draft-wise, and so it'll allow some freedom, although we'll have to be judicious with it moving into free agency.
Two-part question on the coaching staff. Do you anticipate wanting to make a change with any of your assistants at any spot, A? And then the other part is, have you heard from other teams wanting to, say, interview any of your assistants for either head coaching or the
Yeah, where I am now on it, Vic, is going through my evaluation of us. That includes our staff, and then Brandon and I will sit down and go through our roster as well as we go through the rest of the week here.
When developing a rookie quarterback, how important do you think consistency is, not only on the coaching staff, the guys that work with him, but also the other quarterbacks in the room?
Yeah, that's important. There is an element of continuity that is important, both on the staff and with the roster. So I keep that in mind as we look and we evaluate.
Sean, how did this year play out compared to your expectations for the season?
Well, nobody wants to, be 6-10. That's a little bit of an uncharted territory for myself and a lot of the guys on this team. And but as I mentioned earlier, it's where we are, and we have a lot of work to do. So there are necessary steps in trying to get this organization where we're trying to get it to, and we are where we are because of some things certainly that we can do better, starting with myself, but also because of dealing with some of the things that were mentioned earlier, cap management, drafting, not developing players, everything that we inherited when we got here. And so those are not excuses. That's real in terms of the state of the union and the situation we took over. What I'm most proud of is the development of this roster in terms of these young players, what you saw yesterday. Does that mean where we are where we need to be? No. That means there are signs of growth, signs of development, and signs of a future for this organization. But with a lot of work to do moving forward.
Sean, there were times where it got a little ugly, like during the middle stretches of the season, especially when Josh was out. Was there, I guess, how difficult was it for you to not veer from this long-term view, especially when you're in the here and now, to wanting to win each week?
Right. That's tempting. It's challenging. It tests your resiliency. And I'm extremely proud of the staff and the players and the way they handled it, to be able to go out there every week and I believe it was Sal that asked the question the other day, how long can these guys play the way that they've played every week in terms of playing hard, and you hear that talk around the league and the way the Buffalo Bills play, and that's another reason for my optimism going forward, is that these guys play hard and it means something to them to wear the colors of the Buffalo Bills, and that was on display yesterday, in particular with Kyle.
Sean, you guys struggled at times badly this year on special teams. What have you identified as the reasons for that, and how does that get fixed going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our off-season evaluation, Jay, and that's really just beginning. Brandon literally came in here before I did, as you know, and we just finished up meeting with a number of players and getting their feedback on some things, and then communicating with them what we want them to do or need them to do as they have a productive offseason. So, that's a part of it. There were times when we didn't play well enough on special teams, and we'll dive deeper into that as we get into our evaluation in the next couple of days here.
Was there a recurring word or theme that you heard from the players as you talked to them this morning?
They feel like, overall, I would say, and it's probably a better question for the players, but I feel like there's an overall optimism about where we are and where we're headed. They understand the vision for this football team and have a better feel and it's a young group of guys, right? So they have a better feel for what it's going to take to try and get us there. And I encourage them to watch the playoffs starting this weekend and watch the intensity, watch how fast the guys play, because playoff football is different than regular season football. And so for our young players, and that being the goal or the direction that we want to head is, hey, have a feel for it before you get there. And so that's a whole different level.
Sean, is it possible that you can grade this season on some kind of a curve, especially the way you won 4 of your last 7 games, despite finishing 6 and 10? I mean, can you take into account the peaks and valleys you were going to go through with such a young roster, and knowing that you still finished 6 and 10?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from on that, and you know, I'm more concerned right now with the direction of the organization, the direction of our football team. I'll let you guys grade on a curve or not grade on a curve. That's not for me to do. For me, it's to look at our football team and say, where were we a year ago? And I know where we were a year ago with respect to the record. Where are we now, 1 year later, as it relates to where this organization, where this team is headed? As you look at our young football players, namely Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, and the games that they had down the stretch, the games that they had yesterday, totally different complexion at those positions than it was a year ago. And so, to me, the direction of the football team is a positive one, with a lot of work to be done yet.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Is it fair to follow up on that a little bit, to say that you go 9 and 7 last year, make the playoffs, 6 and 10 this year, it seems there's more optimism because of Josh Allen. Is that fair to say? Because that's the quarterback, that's the position.
Those are hard to find. Those positions are hard to find. It's a critical position, as is the middle linebacker position, and they're right now they're occupied by 2 young players, and with bright futures, we feel like, and whose best football is ahead of them if we continue and they continue to do things the right way with their development. And that's a process that takes time. So it's not all going to get fixed at once, but there is, again, a direction for this football team, a vision for this football team, and I'm committed, as is Brandon and Terry and Kim both, to staying the course and continuing to drive this football team in the direction that we feel it should be driven.
What's your assessment? Sean, sort of a similar question that he just asked. Is it possible that you feel better after a 6 and 10 season than you did after a 9 and 7 playoff year?
In the context of where we're trying to go, yes. In the context of where we're trying to go, again, I'm not a good loser in terms of 6 and 10. That's not. That keeps me up at night and wakes me up awful early. I'm not going to go there with that. But in terms of where we're trying to go and what I've been around, excuse me, in this process before, once in Philadelphia, once in Carolina, and what it takes to try and get the organization to where we're trying to go. You know, I feel like there's been some small wins, albeit not on the scoreboard enough, that have us headed in the right direction.
What's your assessment of the state of the offensive line and what needs to happen to get that group to where you need it to be?
Give me the start of your question again, I'm sorry.
Your assessment of the state of the offensive line.
Yeah, I thought, and I know Brandon, I believe, mentioned this, there were some times in the game, in particular yesterday, where I thought we played well, and there were some other times throughout the season where I didn't think we played well enough. We were out of sync up front, and you know, as you've heard me say before, the game is won or lost up front. And I thought yesterday we did a good job in winning the line of scrimmage on both sides yesterday, but not enough throughout the season, in particular on the offensive side, and so that's an area that we've got to look hard at this offseason.
Following up on that, how has Dion developed as a left tackle, and is there any possibility that you maybe move him back to the right?
You know, we'll look at that. That'll be, again, a part of our overall evaluation. You know, there were some moments that I thought Dion improved this year from what he was a year ago, and then I think on the whole just too inconsistent, starting with penalties. And we've talked about that, and this will be an important offseason for Dion.
As someone who's so competitive and confident, was it tough or frustrating at times knowing that you had constraints and to improve in areas where you might want to improve, even though it's calculated, with salary cap, things like that? I mean, at the times, was that tough for you to kind of navigate through sometimes this year for you?
Well, when you take I mean, look, when you take a job, not everything's going to be right. And there's a reason for why these jobs come open, right? And so, to me, as a responsible interview candidate, you go into it knowing that something in there has not been right, and that's what you take ownership of when you take the job, and so, but you're committed to making it right, finding a way to get it right, and sometimes that's easier in some areas than others. That's why the leadership team with Brandon, myself, and Terry and Kim and Dave Weed, and I mean it's a committed group that has a shared investment and looking for a shared result.
Coach, 6 head coaches were fired this morning, 8 so far this year. As someone who was a first-year head coach very recently, what would your advice be to the possibility of 8 new head coaches in the NFL next season?
Oh man, you got about 4 or 5 hours. No, I've learned a lot on the job. There's no substitute for experience. I mean, I prepare. You guys know I'm a thorough guy in my preparation, and I prepared for a number of years. Watched 2 great head coaches, in Andy Reid and Ron Rivera, do it the right way, and there's just no substitute for on-the-job experience. And I would say probably the best advice I would give them is to stay the course. There's going to be a lot of things that aren't right, or aren't the way you want them to be early, but to stay positive and really just and find a way in spite of all that to stay positive and get the team headed in the right direction.
Does it drive home how cutthroat this business can be? I mean, 25% of the head coaching jobs in this league are now vacant.
Yeah, I mean that's the reality of our business. It's a results-driven business, and I think we all, when we sign up for it, whether you're a head coach or a position coach, when you're in this business, you understand it. Doesn't make it right, but at the same time, we're paid to move things in the right direction.
What do you need to see from LaShawn McCoy in this offseason coming back?
I just think overall, LaShawn had one of those years, and it's not on him solely. It's on us as an offense. We were out of sync at times, out of rhythm maybe overall, just too inconsistent. I thought down the stretch, in particular yesterday, you saw some of the flashes of the old LaShawn in space with the moves and playing at a high level. Just overall couldn't get him into a rhythm enough. Starting if you go all the way back to the beginning of the season.
Kind of going off of what Jay said, stability is so important in this industry. Yourself, Brandon, Josh, makes up a big 3 pillars of any good organization. Where do you feel about that, kind of where you're at as an organization?
Yeah, I feel really good about that. I really do, Josh. Those are hard pieces to find, and again, we've got a lot of work to do, and those are young players occupying key positions, and that's been part of our growth this year, also part of our challenges, and at key moments of the game, hey, how do we handle it? Well, we were young, and there's going to be some of that, and some of that, moving forward, quite honestly, as we go. That said, I'm extremely optimistic, encouraged, and I feel the future is bright because of those 2 young men.
You already mentioned the DNA of players that you guys try to bring in. You mentioned the other day that there's a little bit of a void maybe on the offensive side, maybe that's the wrong word, more of the leaders on the defensive side, you said.
Right.
So when you target free agents and draft guys, how much will that be important on the offensive side specifically, the leadership skills?
Yeah, that's huge. We've talked in here, just as a group, I feel like every other week about leadership and coming down the stretch with Kyle's situation, and the goal is to get a leader, a seasoned leader in every room. Is that attainable every year? It wasn't this year, I can tell you that, but it's certainly something that's on our radar, that is part of the evaluation as we move forward with having a little bit more cap space and draft picks. So ideally, we had that in the Super Bowl, in Carolina Super Bowl year. We had about one, maybe if not more, in every room.
Have you had a chance to meet with your medical or training staff in regards to any players who might need procedures this offseason?
Yeah, Jay, not comprehensively yet. We had a flash meeting this morning just so I knew where we were. So anything at this point is a little bit premature.
Sean,
you were pretty realistic about your expectations heading into this season. You mentioned it was kind of a necessary setback in some ways. What would be fair expectations, results-wise, heading into 2019, heading into year 3?
The fair expectations are that we're going to come out and we're going to play good, hard, solid football, Buffalo Bill-style football. And we're going to work our butts off this offseason, starting today and then tomorrow. And we're going to stack days in this offseason because we've got a lot of work to do.
When you were coming into this job and interviewing for it, what were kind of your expectations when you laid out the plan of what type of team you would be fielding in 2019?
Well, I felt like it'd be better, certainly, than the one that we fielded my first season. That's the goal. Every year to improve, continue to climb, and continue to put this organization in a better position than it was the year before. And that was my promise and commitment to Terry and Kim both, that I would protect their investment, and that's what I plan on doing.
Sean, for the last 4 or 5 months, you've gotten a payoff. Every Sunday, you get a payoff one way or the other. You learn how well you did that week, or how poorly you did that week. Now that you're under the offseason, with some head coaching experience, where do you get your payoffs over these next few months as you go into this phase of your job?
Give me a better understanding of the word payoffs.
Growth, or where you see, it's like say it's a results-oriented business, and you just went through your 16 results. Now you don't have another game for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you what gets you up in the morning?
Oh, man, the process of getting this team to where it needs to be. We talked, it's been mentioned a couple of times, I know in team meetings, the vision for this football team. And the thing that gets me up every morning when I get up is my vision for this football team, and that vision of an AFC championship game hosted right here. And we talked about this in the team meeting the other day, and Kyle mentioned this as well, of what that's going to feel like and what that's going to smell like, what that's going to sound like in the fans out here in pregame. And much like yesterday's environment in the cold, I asked the players the other day after practice to turn around and look at the flags when we went outside, because those flags were blowing. I said, this is the type of weather that we have to be ready to play well in here at home when we host a playoff game. That's what gets me up in the morning.